Welcome to the AAC summary. And right out of the gate, guys, I'm going to apologize. This will be the preface, and then we'll have an intro in a second here. But I want to deal with the elephant in the room, and that is the slab protruding past where water could migrate into the house. Now, we'd seen other projects where they put a small slope, but Lynn and I talked about it, and what we could have done was actually had the tie beam and the subsequent hollow block coming up be inside by 4 inches, and then the AAC would have just then merged with the concrete all the way down, and then you would have had one continuous skim coat. Not unhappy with what they did, but that's an alternative. Okay, let's get to the intro. Let's summarize our AAC project. I want to cover off things like costs. I want to cover off the tools and the bits and the crew. I want to get into all of that. And I will slide in a few demos of using the tools, but they'll be overlaying some audio. But I will for sure demonstrate this Forstner bit or the cabinet bit. Please be aware, this bit is massively worn out, but it'll give you a general idea. So in our search for tools, we were looking for kits. And I've honestly had a lot of good luck with Ryobi as a home set of tools. Now, are these industrial grade? Not at all. If I were buying for my company, I probably wouldn't buy these. However, they have done a very good job of holding up. But let's start at the key part to this whole thing, and that is batteries. When you're going to be using the reciprocating saw, the multi-tool, and especially drilling, you need good milliamps on your battery. Now this one is a 4 milliamp hour battery. The 1.5s that came secondarily in the kit, and the second kit that we bought, because we bought another kit that had a second impact driver. Big mistake on my part. I should have at least had 2 4 milliamp batteries. You need them. If it is just straight drilling, putting screws in, all of that type of stuff, especially just using the little impact drills, they're wonderful. The 1.5, it was lasting us all day when we were doing forms and stuff like that. We were not depleting those batteries at all. But when you're going to be using this big boy and this big spade bit, you are going to need, especially once you start drilling, you're going to have multiple holes all through the day, right? So you're going to need the bigger milliamps. Okay, so what were the tools that were key for us? Obviously a drill. We also do have a very basic electric drill, which is good for mixing your adhesive and various things that you want to mix. I wouldn't use this particular one for mixing because the guys, all they know is go, no go. That's all they know. Now the beauty of a drill like this is that you can set it. The beauty of a drill like this, as long as you're always pushing, like when you're doing screws and stuff, push to go in and push to come out. If you think pulling on the drill is going to pull a screw out, wrong answer. All you're going to do is mess up the tips, and the guys messed up more than a few of them. Again, if you have a variable speed drill, it really comes in handy because then you can take the throttle out of the guy's hands, as it were, because like I say, it's either full go or no go. It took a little bit for them to get used to the idea that when it's going pop, 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 that's what it's supposed to do, guys. Keep going until you get the screw to where you want it to be. Okay, so impact, good for your forms, all of that type of stuff. Other than that, we really didn't use it on the AAC, although when you're going to go hang your pictures and stuff, and you wonder if it will pull out like drywall, right? This sheet of plywood was put on by about 8 3-inch screws. This was put in with some 2-inch screws, and we have had a full set of tools all hanging off there. No problem at all, no need for anchors. And our major drilling with the 4 milliamp battery for the electrical and water. This is the Forstner bit. It's a cabinet bit. Remember, there's no teeth left on this on the outside, although the blades are quite sharp still. And then we'll also show you the chisel bit. We had to buy an inverter here, guys. I'll tell you right now that even though the little junction box that comes with the charging platform says that it is switchable to 200 volts, it don't work. The multi-tool, I never really used one for this kind of purpose, but holy cats, it was nice to work with. I'm used to working with this just to nip nails off. They're in awkward spots, you can't pull them out, that type of thing. And to a lesser extent going into drywall, but there are other kits that, you know, kind of work better with drywall. Your reciprocating saw, key tool, massively key. Now, did we use it to cut the AAC blocks for nice cuts down the side when actually, you know, you're in that stacking mode of doing your block? No, we did not use that. It is a bastard saw, if you want to call it. Don't do it that with fine cutting. Now, the hand saws were just fine for doing all of that. This one here is the manufacturer's tool. It's a much stiffer blade. We bought one of these thinking, oh, okay, well, we have a backup. It's just too flimsy, guys. Look at this. It's just too flimsy. It causes the cut to walk as you're going through. Spade bits or chisel bits, wonderful. As long as you got a good welder, you can make this thing as long as you want. Now, I did get one of those adapters where you just screw the chisel bit into an extender. It wobbled too much. This doesn't wobble as much as that tool does, so it kind of drove me a little crazy. But it sufficed. It did cut into it. The multi-tool and the reciprocating saw. Blades on both of those. Bimetal blade worked just fine. Okay, that's all we brought with us, so it worked just fine. I was a little bit worried about it, but then I thought it'll cut through metal. It's going to do okay cutting through sand. The reciprocating saw, I've already tossed the blade, but we brought basic wood bits or blades, and they failed too quickly, guys. I was a little bit flabbergasted. I think it might have been the quality of the blade. That may have been my Achilles heel on that. But on this particular one, it's also a bimetal blade. So, you know, one of those situations where if you're cutting wood and you accidentally go through a nail, no harm, no foul. With all of the blades, the chisel bit included, the material, you can actually see it here. The material starts building up on the edge. So you do have to pull out, clean that off, and then continue your drilling. What happens is, even though there's very low water content in here, if any, it does warm the material back up again. Easy to sharpen these. Normally there's a little tip where my finger is here. We didn't bother trying to reintroduce that. These points did just fine. As a matter of fact, it's still very sharp on the end. This tool was wonderful. I wish I'd have sent it in the original Billick buy-in box, but we actually saw this later. And we were totally unsure as to whether I could get that through immigration because we only do walk-on bags. So this particular case, we shipped this, it arrived, it worked wonderfully. What happens though, guys, this is a Forstner bit, I think is what they call it. It's for cabinetry. I'm trying to get at the angle, but you can see the edge here. That is still very, very sharp, which is very nice. But now the teeth are down level with this, and it starts to give you a lot of vibration when you're trying to use it. So we did manage to get one full sharpening out of this, and we did a 60 square meter house with this. Now, we did not get all of our electrical in with this bit, and I wish we'd have done that. Boy, I wish that had arrived soon enough. We did it all with the chisel bit, and unfortunately, when you're trying to line up two electrical pipes, your in pipe and your out pipe, it was just too finicky and too hard to deal with. We ended up drilling 2 holes and then using the reciprocating saw to square it off, and that solved the problem. But had we been able to just drill 2 nice big holes, boom, easy peasy lemon squeezy. We would have just nipped off the little curls with the reciprocating saw, and that would have sufficed. Let me give you a walk in the house to show you where these tools came in handy, and I'll just describe the tools here. No physical demonstration. So here's an example of our electrical box, and you can see that there are 2 pipes in there, and that was what was hard to line up with these things. Now the other thing is, because it's AAC, your boxes are going to be a lot more recessed into the wall than you might like. I didn't want a soft zone in here, even though we filled that cavity with material. So that was sort of a concern when we were initially doing it, but not a big problem because again, your plates and everything, you can offset all of that stuff. Now let's look at the electrical panel itself. So what we did from behind was we put the panel in like this, kept this in place just as you use as a binder, and then trying to get my electrician not to put boxes hidden up in the ceiling it's going to be impossible. So we're going to get him to mount in behind here wherever he has to do splicing. So if he has to use extra wire to bring them back, they'll all be here. Now in our case, what I'm going to do is get a little piece of Party Flex, which is a cement board, and I'm going to mount that on here, and that will hide this all up. The fridge comes to right about here, and so that's why this outlet is here, and we're also going to use this same plug to put the modem in for the Wi-Fi. The electrical panels here, not used to looking at these things. They look so archaic. Okay, now these switches, because we were working with this and we were able to use the flex pipe here, we were able to mount these surface quite nice and tight, which is going to be nice because these will be high usage switches. And just to quickly describe, they have switches here that are small. They're little gang pieces, just plug in. And so we're going to have 3 switches here. It'll be outside front patio or Daggett patio. It'll be the living room and the kitchen. And on this one will be the TV room, the light right behind me at the entry door, and then the big patio behind me. So that's what we've done because we got quite a small house. There's no need in putting all these extra switch boxes in. The switch box for the bedroom, and then the switch box for the ensuite. We got those nice and flush because we were starting to get a rhythm by then, guys. Same with the electrical here for the razor, although I don't know if we're ever going to use it, but okay. And then we put a high plug in. That is for the hot water heater. The guys don't do central hot water here, of course. They just do on demand in each location that they want it. What else can I say here? Water. Let's go look at water. Okay. So here's our water. Now, this water went in nice. We channeled that, and we came up and we put the water in for the shower. The guys messed up. So we had to actually open up like they would do normally here and chip, and redo that whole thing. As you can see there, all I have to do is do that. But if I want, I'm going to hit it right there. Now I put a dent in there, but the whole hollow block's gone if we do that with a hollow block. Okay. Now with the PPR, you know, you can get away with it, and this whole room will be tiled anyway, so I'm okay with that. That is just fine. Tiling is just a way of life in the Philippines, and that's just how it is. Now with the windows, what we did was we added a where is it? I got to go to the other window. So this is where again the multi-tool came in handy for putting in our windows. We put a slight lip on the outside so that it will go down, so that any water that might for whatever reason want to migrate in, it's not going to pour in. So okay, now when it came to reciprocating saw and doing the channels here, I'm quite fast at it, but the guys preferred to use a regular what do you call them? Saw. Tile saw. Zip cut, if you want to call it. They prefer that. And then just a couple of wood chisels and all the material pops. It's really, really easy. So here's the wall that we did last year. This is AAC. And it's only the superfine skim coat. That is not a sanded skim coat on there to get rid of, and I'm not sure if you can see it, but you can see some of the outlines of the hollow block or the AAC. And this took a day and a half right through to paint, and that CR on the equivalent amount of length, that took 5 days. 5 days, guys, to get to the same point. Now I've extrapolated a little bit because there's only skim coat on the CR right now, but that's where we got to. And on top of all of that, I'm not convinced that I would see some of the AAC outlining if the guys hadn't have gone in and done all the seams first, and then they came in and did a putty layer, the final skim coat. And what I've noticed in the past is that if you do that, you end up with a double layer of skim coating in one spot and a single layer in the other. And that micro difference, the human eye can see all that stuff, right, guys? But I'm still satisfied with these walls. I'm still satisfied with them. As far as the garage goes, I'm not changing that, because I've looked at enough hollow block places to know that they never get these things fully smooth. And so there is always going to be some little shadowing imperfections on the walls. Okay guys, I know it's nighttime, but I want to make sure that this summary of our AAC use of tools, and I showed you the impact test there where I drove that hammer right into that block, even though I had cut into the block. But now what I want to talk to you about in this summary is two major things. One is your cost, obviously, and that is passing muster or with a lot of Philippine architects who have been citing that AAC, when you're taking your project right through to completion, you know, in their case with hollow block, multiple skim coat or multiple plaster layers and everything to finally get down to a nice smooth finish, and then comparing up the amount of rebar and that type of thing. Now, we did use a lot more rebar in our project than I was led to believe that we needed to do. But I cited in the videos why, and those floating walls, like for the CRs and stuff, if we'd have ordered 6-inch AAC and we could have interlaced them properly, the 4-inch just wasn't working, guys. Then I think that maybe it's true. We don't need as much rebar, but again, these floating walls. So that 20%, that's, with our garage, etc., that we've done multiple comparisons now and more than happy with that 20% savings. And of course, the speed of the project, right, which the guys themselves don't like. And that leads me to crew. Lock in on your people. Don't let them deviate. Don't let them think that just because they've been doing hollow block, that that's the only way to do blocks. There are multiple ways to do blocks. We do cinder block in Canada, totally different. We groove it. Everything has a certain spacing between the blocks, etc., etc. And so, there's more than one way to skin a cat, as they say. So you got to keep real close tabs. Use some YouTube videos, put them in there, make them watch it, make them understand, make them do a pour of the AAC. Make sure that they don't do a batch right before lunch. Oh my God, a couple of times we caught the guys, why are you doing it? You're about to go for break. It'll be ready later. That's fine with mortar, but not with adhesive. So even though this crew has been very, very good, guys, they have been very good, having a lot of fun with them in the whole 9 yards, they still keep deviating. So you have to be on them like a hammer. And, in our case, we're not using the hammer because it doesn't serve any purpose, in my opinion. Just adds more stress. Lynn and I are already burnt out. Can't imagine adding stress to the whole thing too. Okay guys, that's a wrap on this. Later, Gators.